Talk over drink.
Talks over drinks.
Good day. My name is Corey Fauconier. Welcome to another episode of Talks Over Drinks. As always, my partner in justice, my man, Markel Prines. Markel, how are you this afternoon or this evening, sir?
I'm doing awesome, brother, as usual. Once again, I always look forward to these shows to get some awesome information and to hear a new perspective. So I'm very excited about tonight's show.
All right. Well, it's good to see you. I made Sandy a promise that we were gonna I was no longer gonna refer to you as uh the G word. So I'm making good on my promise. You know what I'm saying? So it's all good.
Let's
Food for
call him the
action.
president. The president, governor, mayor. Markel's my president.
What's your food for action this evening, sir?
Okay, so tonight's food for action goes like this. Sometimes your biggest challenge will be not wanting to stop once you get started. So that right there, I should have started out by saying that was inspired by something that I did yesterday. Um, in one of my mastermind calls, we were having a discussion and we were talking about going live. And for the majority of people, one of their biggest fears is actually going live, going on camera, whether it's on your social media, just turning on the camera, whether you have something to say or not. But if it's about business and promoting your business, product or services. So it was a challenge that we had going on, and the challenge was to go live. So one of my things is, even though when we do our show, it's recorded, but it's a difference to me for whatever reason. It feels a little different than to just click the button, go live, and not have any type of filter behind it. So for some people, their biggest fear might actually be just clicking that live button, going live. And for others, the biggest fear might be doing it for the first time, liking it and loving it, and not wanting to stop doing it. So sometimes that happens with me. Once when I get started doing something, I like to continue doing it.
Okay, well, that's good enough, fair enough. Good to see you. Moving on, my brother of another color, Keswick, Virginia, Jeff Kleb. Jeff, how are you this evening, sir?
All right, hanging out with the spring peepers outside, making all kinds of noise. They
Okay.
we got a little pond behind the house, and the frogs are going nuts in there. But I would like to leave the evening with a quote and a joke. The quote is, I I sort of made it up myself based upon something I heard somewhere else, but my quote is, political weapons, once unsheathed, are never returned to the scabbard.
All
And
right.
my joke of the night is, I met this guy. He seemed a little weird, but he said he had a bad habit of drinking brake fluid. I said, "You drink brake fluid? Isn't that kind of weird?" And he says, "Yeah, but I can stop anytime."
Oh man. Well, I appreciate the joke. That makes my day better. Moving on to everyone's favorite Nazarene attorney, Sandy Sanders, Hanover, Virginia. How are you, Sandy?
I'm doing pretty well, thank Jesus. And we've already had one upset in the tournament already. And we're looking forward to some more double-digit seeds winning games. So it's
Okay.
McNeese State. They beat Clemson. If you rooted for Clemson, I'm sorry. The general rule is the higher the number, the higher the little number, the better, and they win, the better I like it. So
Okay.
now
Okay. That's fair
Alabama's
enough.
an exception because I went there.
Okay.
So we just want to understand Alabama's the exception on that.
Okay. Well, good to see you. I'm glad to hear that you're watching the tournament and everything is blessed in your part. And
Keeping
so
track, yes, that's
we're
right.
we're we're international once again. We had Jeff return to the United States, and now we have Joshua Huffman, my Libertarian brother. He is in New Zealand and he's joining us. So we appreciate you joining us, Joshua. How's everything in New Zealand?
Oh, hello. Yes. Good to see everyone. New Zealand. Well, today's the first day it hasn't been raining, so that's good.
Okay.
I'm here in the Wellington Harbor, the capital of New Zealand. Um, yeah, just getting ready to start my research here on April 1st. But right now,
Okay.
just finding a place to live is the important
Okay.
step.
Well, we know that you got over there, so that's a big step. So we know that, God is going to bless you with your home search. So we'll keep you in prayer with that, and we appreciate you joining us. So
Certainly.
this evening, we once again are trying to raise the bar for Talks Over Drinks. We have with us Republican gubernatorial hopeful Merle Rutledge. Merle, how are you this evening, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to this interview all week. I was just basically getting myself all prepped and ready. Just wasn't sure what to expect. And it looks like it's a good crowd. It looks like everybody is a little merry, a little chipper, and that's the mood that it should be right now. So
All
I
right.
plan on making sure we maintain the vibe right now.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm happy that you took the time to meet with us and you're helping us raise the bar. Now, I originally met you when you were running for state senate against Louise Lucas in Portsmouth. So I guess my first question to you is why governor and why now? What are you hoping to accomplish in your candidacy to try to get through the Republican primary?
Well, I'm like every Virginian and American. I'm fed up. We had 325,000 illegals here in Virginia, and nobody has answers for it. Then we have a situation where we had DEI as a new public policy here in Virginia based off of Governor Youngkin's Executive Order 10. And then we have our schools out of control, crime out of control. And it seems like we only have leaders that can do press conferences compared to take on action. So once I got tired of seeing the no-shows or the nobodies that don't do nothing, then I said, it's a time for a man of action. Everybody who have dealt with me knows exactly I'm here to make sure the job is done. We have Virginians working 2 to 3 jobs just to keep a roof over their head. And the only people who seem to be talking about it is activists or podcasters like you, who may or may not get censored because you're telling too much of a truth that people may or may not handle. Me, on the other hand, I'm here to fix the problem and address it and make sure people have the confidence to know that Virginia is in a different direction, moving forward smoothly, efficient, and stronger. Period.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm gonna segue to some of our other hosts. Markel, you have a question for Merle that you'd like him to answer?
Oh man, I'm surprised that you came to me first. Usually you give me, I get to hear somebody else's perspective so I can have something to kind of go off of. But right off top, I would say the first thing I was just about to take a note, just in case I was one of the last to go, is the first thing that I just noticed was just like your passion for it. Out of all of our guests, I would say from a passion standpoint, you come off as someone that is not a politician, which is a good thing. You seem more like a person of the people who have a passion for the situation or the conditions that they might be facing themselves, that they want to help a community actually fix and solve. Like you said, problem solving. So that was one of my trigger words right there when you said problem and solving the problem. And it just was like a cut to the point blank, period. I'm just here to get it done. So
Yeah.
I would say first and foremost, that's something that I'm excited about, and I'm excited to hear what else you have to say as far as your perspective on, let's say you actually get to be in a position and you get the job, and now it's time to actually get the job done. I often ask this of different candidates, and I guess it's a hard question to really answer, but how would you be able to work with your fellow Republicans and the other side and the third side and the fourth sides and all the other sides that there are out there. So what would be your vision for bringing things together? Say you were in a position to actually hold that.
Well, during this time frame, during the lame duck session of the predecessor, I would tell them go on vacation, take it easy, get away from politics for good, and come back refreshed. Because now you got new leadership that's here to get things done. We're not dealing with the kill list. We are dealing with we're going to get action done list. That's what it's all about. On day one, I'm suspending all taxes by declaring a national emergency based off the pandemic. We're going to fix what happened during that pandemic and work stronger and harder and smarter about getting our kids back on track so they can go to school and get an education compared to being scared to walk to school because they're worried about what's happening in between the routes. So that's one of the things we have to do. Make sure everybody's getting a bigger paycheck because right now everybody's struggling. I'm struggling. I'm no different than nobody else. That's why I relate to people the way I do. And that's a big deal. Suspending all taxes, making sure they keep it in their pocket. I'm going to take down the tolls. Virginia's going to finally be toll free all across Virginia. And most people ask me, how are you going to pay for this? We got the revenue. We are sitting on, have you ever heard of the quote, we have water surrounding us, but nobody can drink it? How many people knew in Virginia, we already have oil and gas, gold, titanium, uranium, quartz, all in the Blue Ridge Mountains, also continental shelf, Appalachian Basin. People don't realize for the last 4 years, we have had the lowest oil output ever in the history of Virginia. Our prices is high because we are no longer trying to be the direct source. What do people do when they're trying to get more money in? You cut out being the middleman, you end up becoming direct. My plans have been vetted to the point where, yes, I have said 25-cent gas. The reason is we have $1 trillion worth of gas and oil that we are standing on, that we don't touch. All we need is more refineries. And with us producing our own gas, we can set our own price. We can also put the costs on for other states that's also getting cheaper gas. We are not just saying for Virginia. We are saying for the whole entire country. That's thousands and thousands of jobs and thousands and more of revenue. This is what I call making money while you sleep, because we are going to use the gas royalties to start building up our generation as soon as they are born. They'll be grandfathered in with royalties from the oil industry. This way, by the time frame somebody's ready to go to college, remember that 1 cent in the bank account, if you let interest keep hitting, by the time frame they hit 18, imagine all that money and all that interest. We'll flood the whole economy with new money. That means it'll be a stimulus and more spending. That means more businesses and more jobs. What people need to see around their community and neighborhood is one of my biggest plans that I plan to make sure it happens. The Family Business Act. What that means is we are bringing businesses to your neighborhoods. We are going house to house. If you have a hair salon, you know how to do hair. You know how to be a nurse's aide. We want your businesses in your neighborhoods. We don't want the kids to always see the drug dealer driving around with a nice car, or you have to play basketball and all this other stuff. Imagine seeing businesses all around these kids. These kids will start looking at, oh, we want to be the security for the business. And guess what those businesses do? They put the money back into their community. What we have to do is be more direct and more closer to our community and more at home. That's why people are fighting, and that's why people are exploding like volcanoes, because they don't trust nobody, because they don't talk as much as they used to. Now I'm talking to them. So now they got a governor who's going to speak their language, speak directly to their pocket, and say, we're going to get out of this together. We just got to work on this thing, on building up us listening more than us speaking. And that's how we get answers, because we got to bring the best minds to the table. That's going to teach our kids to say, I want to get as much knowledgeable as possible, because now I see a road out of my situation. That's why I say, even with high schoolers, by the time you graduate, your scholarship and awards money is going to be in your bank account, just like an NIL deal, or whatever. These kids is going to become millionaires by the time frame they graduate. Imagine a drug dealer saying, don't mess with that kid. He's worth millions if he graduates. They're going to be encouraging. And I hate to say this is the way we have to do it, but sometimes you got to try something. Doing nothing is unacceptable, and that's what we have had for the last 4 years.
Jeff, you got a question for Merle?
Well, I like the idea of the community activism approach, and I think that like I'm an old white guy, I live way out in the sticks, but I think that message could apply to somebody who might have a small farm where I live versus somebody in the inner city, maybe a community of color or something like that. It gives people a different avenue to attain success. I admire that. I admire the thought process, Mr. Rutledge, but I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I wanted to know what your view was on that, and if you would veto a lot of these bad bills coming from the General Assembly controlled by Democrats. I also am curious as to what your stance is on abolishing the socialist liquor monopoly that we have in Virginia.
There's no such thing as gun control. Guns save lives. We're going to educate our kids to understand you don't need to fear guns. And now, yes, there's a such thing as a bad guy with a gun and such thing as a good guy with a gun. We got police officers walking around all the time, nobody getting shot. We got to use our tools and our resources to get our message through, whether it's through the youth or through adults who are scared and thinking taking away guns is going to save lives. That's not going to happen. I'm a constitutional carry type of person. Number two, no universal background checks. Forget that. Every man or woman has a right to defend their life from monsters, no matter where they come from. And any kind of crime doesn't wait for the second or time to give you a heads up. You have to be prepared as best as possible to protect you and your family. We used to take our kids out hunting, so it's nothing new about kids holding a gun. The difference was we educated our kids on how to use it and the reasons why. That's why we didn't have all these active shootings. That's because we have more responsibility and accountability from home into the schools. People need to be more educated on what a gun is really meant for and used for. That's why I'm going to take out the sex education and bring in the gun safety education, as well as the STEM, meaning we're going to bring vocational schools back in, and we're going to tell the adults, you can come in and learn a new skill too. So we have to engage in every single way possible because this problem is systemic. But I can tell you like this, if any gun control bill made it through the House or the Senate, I would be meeting the guy halfway and say, hold on, stay right there. I'm signing it right here so we can get it out the way. We're not going to play politics with people's lives. As long as they hear somebody who's confident and decisive, people will start getting used to it. And once they see the results, you'll start noticing that most people start backing away on this hard resentment of guns or whatever have you. Most of this is about knowledge compared to those who they want uneducated. That's the far left.
Wow.
Do you oppose red flag laws?
Absolutely. There's nobody's gun going to be taken without a trial. I have seen people play the system back and forth as much as they can. And when they find out somebody's no longer armed, then they start trying to show off. As far as I'm concerned, no, unless there's a trial, you do not get your gun taken away. I think that was a cancer even started. It was something like a Trojan horse to start doing more gun control compared to people saying guns save lives. Period.
And would you be willing to try to, I know the governor can't do it on his own, but would you advocate trashing and getting rid of the socialist liquor monopoly and letting the private sector handle alcohol sales in Virginia?
Actually, that's one of my stance, to privatize the ABC. so that mom and pop shops can make more of a profit. In DC and other areas, they almost got 24-hour pop-up shops where you can almost go to the drive-thru. I'm not out here to be anybody's chaperone, but I do believe in good business, and even with the skills gains, I think Youngkin won 35%. I said we could cut that down to 15% and hopefully phase it out. I'm trying to phase out all state and local taxes based off a new revenue that we have here in Virginia. We just got to apply it instead of trying to go after people's pockets, instead of making sure our government works for us and makes us money. Because I look at taxpayers as investments, not as people who have to basically go broke to a government that keeps charging them rent and they never own anything. We getting back to ownership too. And that day where they say ownership is dead, I'm going to say, no, we're going to have a stop where no more payments can be taken, whether it's from a home or from a car. We just got to make the decisive decision. And we are more than ready to make that happen. I am. I don't know about the rest. I can speak for me. I guarantee you that.
Okay. Sandy, you have a legal question?
Yes, I want to know a little bit more about Merle's background. I hope I got your first name right, Merle. If I didn't, correct it for me. I want to know a little more about your background, and I'm a lawyer, and I have to tell you that there's a very serious problem that needs to be discussed, and I'm sure nobody's going to discuss it unless you discuss it or unless somebody else discusses it, and that is judicial selection. The selection of judges in Virginia is very closed. It's not transparent. It's done by the legislature. It's done behind closed doors, and nobody knows what's going on, and nobody knows what's doing, and backroom deals are made. And the only thing that has saved the judiciary in Virginia is at least most of the legislators have at least enough respect for the fact that they're appointing a judge that's going to make important decisions about sentencing and stuff. And they have at least enough sense to only pick decent people to do it. But the way they do it is, and believe me, I know the way they do it is completely bogus in my view. What do you think about that?
There'll be elections, now appointments with judges. I'm going to advocate hard for it, and I'm going to lay the argument to the people. And that's the thing. We haven't used the bully pulpit like we should have. Most people will agree that judges should not have backroom deals in order to be on the bench. So we bring it to the public. Now, executive order won't stop it because that's just the legislation at hand. But the thing is, we can't be afraid to confront the issue directly. Me, on my stances, it's going to show that. It's going to say he believes in electing judges, not appointing them. That's clear. And open file discovery. I believe that anything done on the taxpayer's dime should be open to the public and reviewed.
Yeah.
It's because we need the transparency and clarity to know, are we getting justice or are we getting lawfare? This is going to be a new time and a new Virginia with me being governor. And that's all I can say about that. The rest, on the other hand, had lived their life and been in politics and been up there elected officials. They had their chance to stop the problem. All we have gotten is 4 years more plus the interest. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, let me ask that question about background. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do and where you're from and some.
Yeah, yes. I'm a graduate of Norfolk State University. I spent the last couple of decades being the hidden figure that most of y'all never knew was working behind the scenes, getting legislation up there or whatever, or bringing ideas of criminal justice reform. Even Tim Kaine has used some of my legislation to try to have it passed in Virginia, as well as Kenneth Alexander, which is the city of Norfolk mayor. Pretty much what we have done is try to make sure we have become the check and balances of corrupt government and corrupt officials. For decades, I have watched them work their magic and play the system. And what has happened? They went from $30,000 salaries to millionaires. Me, on the other hand, I'm the private investigator and the one who does the journalism that puts out the story of where it goes and what we can do to make sure that people are made to do. Over the years, the government has become far-reaching and needs to be limited. And while this has continued to occur, I have continued to fight in the background, trying to make sure that people know that there's somebody still making sure that these legislators are still held accountable. So you want to say journalism and putting out the story, I have put out some of the most powerful stories that have made lawmakers dance. That's the reason why they have the problem with me, because I'm not afraid to call them out. Glenn Young got called out. Winston Sears got called out, especially when it came down to the castration and the sterilization of minors without the parents' knowledge or consent. It said that basically I'm the man who is willing to go the extra mile, while everybody else has barely went an inch. And do you see Virginia grown an inch? Has your money grown an inch? No. Right now, you need a different head coach, and that's exactly what I'm bringing to Virginia. I'm bringing the best of the best because I learned from Rutledge is the only person right now, from background to current to now, that knows how to do the job efficiently, more effectively, and have proven to everybody that it's only one man who is willing to get Virginia out of this ditch that everybody else put us in. And that's everybody elected. So you can ask them about their background. Their background may say, hey, I'm used to stealing money from the people. My background is saying, basically, I'm used to catching them stealing money from the people and telling you all about it.
Josh, you with us? You have a policy question for Merle?
Well, not a policy question, but
it.
just sort of, I guess, a observation. That being, of course, when the gubernatorial election kicked off, I was surprised by how many elected Republican officials, I think pretty much all of them, lined up behind Winsome Sears to be the Republican nominee. And of course, in recent times, we've had other candidates emerge, including former Delegate LaRock and former State Senator Amanda Chase. And I guess my thoughts are, I mean, it seems like it's going to be difficult. Number one, of course, fighting against almost the entire Republican establishment, but also your fellow other candidates who are doing the same. So just curious what you'd say about that.
Well, I'll tell them. Spanberger raised 10 million. Winston Sears raised 3 million. And when the newspaper tried to report on me, it said I raised $126, even though I had to put it out there. All my donors showing I raised over $35K during that time period. But what does this say? If a $126 campaign can bring down a $3 million campaign, remember, Winston Sears was up 1 point margin difference. Now she's down by double digits after I rocked the Republican Party with the allegations of them letting men into the women's bathroom, or the one about minors without the parents' consent. I blew that article up. Now, if you look at Winston Sears, right now the pressure is on her because they gave her $3 million. You shouldn't be in this position. Right now, the Republican Party is looking at me at this point because, for one, I'm the only person who has stood up to all of them when they decide to corral or happy, and they don't look that cocky. And guess who it is? The one man who decided to stand up against Goliath. And that's what you could call me, David Merle Rutledge, or AKA Moses, that's bringing my people from a corrupt youngin who decided to be legacy governor. That's about it, with no accomplishment. Anybody who wants to ask about all these ones circling around Winston Sears, they say, what are your accomplishments since you've been in office? The same as Winston Sears, nothing. So you got a bunch of zeros.
Let me
Hate
ask
to
you
say
this.
it, somebody got to keep it real with me.
I want to ask you this. So I know that why did you decide on the Republican Party primary? You know, you have some independent parties, the Libertarian, Green Constitution, who are, I guess, experienced with ballot access, petitioning, and things of that nature. Why did you choose the Republican Party as opposed to choosing a independent party that has more of a groundswell on their game?
Well, it's not about picking who you are and trying to pretend to be something that you're not. That's what others do. That's not Merle Rutledge. Merle Rutledge is Merle Rutledge. Merle Rutledge says he's a conservative, and he could break down why he's a conservative. Lower taxes, limited government, of course, at the same time frame, pro-life. But you look at the rest and their records compared to mine for the last couple of years, honestly, there's no comparison and nobody who can say that they do it better. There's sometimes where you have followers who wants to be the sheep to the elite establishment. Me, on the other hand, I'm not going to be nobody's sheep. I'm earning every single thing. That's the Republican way. That's the conservative way. If it was easy, I wouldn't want it, baby. So just tell anybody and everybody how it is to be Merle Rutledge. Merle Rutledge is a conservative. He's a Republican. He's a mega Republican, and he sticks to it. And his line in the sand is there. Where's the others? That's on them.
I got
So
you.
that's the reason why I'm Republican and conservative.
My last question, and I'm sure everybody on the panel will kind of nod their heads when we say this. I feel as if when you're African American and you say you're conservative, a lot of people in our community look at you like you have two heads. What is it that you would want to explain to the folks in the Black community about why you've grown up and you work so diligently as a Republican as opposed to being a Democrat?
Well, regardless of the situation, the Republican Party has a creed. Not everybody's going to live up to it. That's the part of being human. You have to be responsible for yourself and your actions. If you believe in something, the character of how that goes is on that person. When people meet me, you get me no matter good or bad day. I'm not going to change for you. The reason is you've seen flip-floppers all over the place. Look at Mitt Romney. Look at Winston Sears. Look at what they're going through right now. They're going through this because they couldn't be consistent. They couldn't be decisive. They could not keep a line in the sand where they stood up for something long term. That's the difference. When I fight for Virginia, I'm fighting for Virginia for the long term. You have seen the short-term results, and you have seen where people decided to try to walk that line or, straddle that fence. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look pretty when people find out the real fake is the person keep covering up. So
Right.
they don't have that with me.
Okay.
Merle
Markel, you got a question?
I'm sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, how a person with such passion can work for us and passion can work against us a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I look at some of the most passionate people and I think to myself, what things would be like if we had went with that individual instead of the person that was feeding us some lines, or person that we know is a showman and that's feeding us something. And often we go with the showmanship and we get what we get. So do I have a question? It seems like all of a lot of the questions that I would have is stuff that wouldn't be able to be answered until it was time to actually be in the shoes and be in the position of actually getting the job done. My hardest thing is kind of living in the world of what ifs and kind of basing things off of, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And it's hard to kind of ask questions around that because it's like continuing the same cycle over and over. We're talking about the problem. I guess my question would be, what would be the continuation of this? Once when this race is over, how do you continue on a journey that it sounds like you definitely have a passion for? This doesn't sound like it's going to be your last stop. it's a stop on your journey so that you can show to the world, to the community, your position, so that it's another step, a stepping stone for you to get put in a position that you're supposed to be in. So what is the next or the continuation of this? How do you continue on once when the race is over and so many other people that like we've interviewed, and I often wonder, okay, the race is over, where are they now? What do they do? How do they continue their work in the community? So what does that look like for you?
For me, it's almost like a lion in a cage, and they want to get out, but they got to stay in this place for their own good. Listen, when you love what you do, that's not going to change or anything, because even if you walk away, have you ever walked away from something, someone pulled you back and said, you can't walk away from this, you got to come back into this. You know how many times I wanted to give up and let things go and let things ride? And I'm so glad I turned back around, because if I didn't, the chaos would happen all over again to somebody else. After a while, you have to say the end stops here. If I tell people, if I won't fight for something without you, meaning I can't expect you to walk this journey with me, because some things ain't meant for the ordinary person. That's why God puts us in a certain position or in a certain path, because he puts the leaders that can handle those blows, that can handle the no's when people want the yes, because a lot of people are impatient. You teach people patience at that time frame, because everybody looking at you, seeing when you going to quit, and they want to know what it takes for you to quit. And the thing is, they don't know what it takes for me to quit, and that's the biggest weapon. And the only person that gives you a weapon like that is by God opening up your eyes. If you don't open up your eyes the next day, your journey is over. I only got one life to live. I'm too old to play these games with these politicians, because I've seen them for decades. You have too. And my passion is to die on my feet, never on my knees. If they want that for somebody else, that's cool. I don't have to carry that baggage into my sleep. Honestly, I love my peace too much, and I want Virginia to have their peace. And it's time for them to see somebody standing up and going through these blows and everything else, because that's what makes it worth it. Because it may not be my time, but it may be a grassroots leader that's looking at me saying, if he could go through that, I can. And we want to be the spark, like Tupac
That's
said.
true.
Maybe I'll be the spark that goes ahead and changes the world. And that's exactly what I want to be. I want to represent that spark and to say that's a part of my legacy. That's the part of the legacy I bring to Virginia. And if people feel that passion, then so be it. I'll be the passion. Then somebody got to do it. Thank you. Thank you
All
for that
right.
Just
time.
said
Thank you
my
for
other
that.
trigger word. When you mentioned Pac, my ears perk up. So
Yeah.
He's my favorite rapper.
I hey, that's my favorite. So hey, brother, like I said, I went to speak first. Usually I don't get to speak first, but it must have been for a reason. I pay attention to signs. I recognize things in certain people. So yeah, yeah, I recognize certain things in certain people. So when you said that, said there it is.
All right. Jeff, you got another question?
No, I'm pretty much I'm pretty impressed by the background and the mentality and the you know the thing about being consistent. That's a hard trait to find in people. A lot of people will just stick their finger up in the air and see which way the wind is blowing. And I'm you might be kind of like me in this regard, but I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not.
Yeah,
Sandy,
absolutely.
you got a question?
Yeah, I guess I have a little bit of a question. Uh, I wanted to you know, I've been thinking about several different things while Meryl's been talking, and I want to first say I admire anyone that gets in the arena and does something, because it was Theodore Roosevelt that said it's not the guy that complains and whines, and I'm paraphrasing. Not the guy that complains that is any good. It's the guy that gets in the arena and maybe gets himself a little bloody and helps him to do these things. And you said something. I got to stop you because I'm the Nazarene lawyer. So I guess I got to ask the spiritual question. And if you want to say I don't want to talk about it, that's fine, because there's no religious test and no one should vote for or against somebody solely because what they believe in. But I would sure love to hear. I sense that you believe in Jesus Christ and believe in something greater than yourself that maybe is moving you to get out there and get in the public arena and talk about issues. Am I right about that?
Yeah, you're very right about that, because I feel like this race is really biblical all the way across the board. I feel like I'm going up against Goliath, and I feel like I'm splitting the Red Sea every single time frame I see change happen. So all of a sudden, I'll just decide to talk about and more. And I know people are watching it. And at the same time frame, that's why I said God puts you in the places. Honestly, I thought about quitting on several different occasions, and God said, if you quit right now, you're not fulfilling my will. No matter win or lose, there's always a lesson that you learn throughout your journey that makes you
Amen.
better. And like I
Amen.
said,
You're
yes,
right about that.
religious. There is a religious context to that. I am
Have
Christian.
you got wife and kids, Merrill?
No, I'm not married, but yes, I do have a queen.
You better watch out, because when I ran
Yeah.
for office, I was single many years ago, and I ran for office, and the girls all liked me while I was running for office. But after I lost,
Yeah,
boy,
they all
I
over
went
you.
back to being a dork again.
Yeah, but the thing is, you gotta be prepared for the Eves and the Jezebels. That's why I tell people keep a Bible close,
Yep.
especially when you're on this journey and you're
Keep
running
it
for
holy.
office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's absolutely right. If you'll forgive one more question, you said pro-life. I don't think that the pro-life movement has done a very good job of stating their position. It seems like they're almost apologizing for their position. And I want somebody to stand up and say something like this. And if you want to steal this from me, Merrill, you steal it from me. It's
Okay,
I
I will
think
do.
somebody needs to say abortion is the willful taking of a human life in the womb, and it needs to be severely regulated by law. Now, I'm willing to work with other people as to what that regulation should be, but I think something like that should be severely regulated. Would you agree with that, or how would you modify that?
Yeah, I'm totally pro-life. I told people I wouldn't sign anything that would modify. The reason is because I love life. I love people having a chance to
Mhm.
enjoy this world just like I've had the chance. I don't believe in forcing, but I do believe in making sure our children and their children know that they have options instead of taking another life, and they can bring in a life into this world
Sure.
that can be the greatest joy or the greatest gift ever imaginable. Whoever thought Jesus as a baby was going to be the savior of the world? And who are we to say that another baby is not meant to be the savior of this world when we need the most? And at the same time frame, all lives is precious, and we need to give out the message to tell women and tell anybody who's going through this that, hey, we have your back, and look at these different options, because we are not having the conversation we used to have. That's the problem. You're right. The message has really gotten diluted to the point that people don't want to listen, but they will listen to somebody who loves them first, then loves their baby as well in the same time. You got to go with the love approach, because people ain't going to care about anybody who's just trying to get them to do something political. They want them to do something that is going to be exceptional for them and their families, because we are destroying legacies right now and family history. And we got to get that back. And that's why people don't find having a child so important, because they miss the significance of why that child is as important as it is to the entire family. Because we have cousins, we have nephews, nieces, or whatever. That's what makes the family strong, by keeping them together. And people need to realize you're keeping the family strong by having a baby that is going to take the place of somebody who may go. Because that's what happens when a grandmother leaves or a mother leaves. we know a baby's coming into this world to replace. That's just that has been the way it is.
That's powerful. Wow. Josh, you have a final question, sir?
Oh, I can't really think of anything. I certainly do appreciate you coming on here today, and I know from personal experience, running for office isn't exactly a walk in the park. There are,
You're right.
yeah. So, that's. I think anybody who's actually going to go out there and put themselves in the arena, there's got to be some respect for that, certainly.
Exactly.
I agree
Well,
100%.
I'm going to say this, Merle. I think I've watched some of your videos. I feel like you speak to the undecided voter. I feel like you speak to the person who maybe thinks that politicians don't pay them any mind. And like Markel and Sandy have said, you seem very passionate about that. I think the last question I have for you is, how would you work to unify the Republican Party behind either yourself or whatever candidate the party is going to choose for this cycle to represent them?
Well, the way to get the party to get unified right now, they're getting crushed to the point that they don't even get speeches on the floor. They don't even try anymore. They just quit. It ain't hard to get somebody who already quit and not doing nothing to finally do something and make that change happen. When we have all of these Republicans trying to hide like rats, that's not the Republican Party I remember. I remember us confronting the problem. And I remember us, if we had time, we was going to use our time. If we couldn't change your mind, we going to try to change your mind. It's unacceptable what's going on right now in Richmond. They're not even trying, but they're quickly trying to raise money. I want leaders in love with people, not in love with money. And on day one, I'm going to set that tone with the rest of the Republican Party to let them know at the same time frame, I'm not here to be your enemy, but I am here to get things done that you couldn't get done before I got here. And that's exactly the way it's going to be moving forward. The Democrats need to know the adults are at the table. And I'm going to tell them on the bully pulpit, if you want to sit at the kiddie table, we're going to bring it back into time, people. You remember that one? When the older folks, we sat at the adult table, the kids sat at the kiddie table. They wasn't part of that discussion. They wasn't ready for that. And at that point, you start making them see themselves in a different way. How are you looking right now? Trust me, their souls is hurting right now, given the fact of what they got to cover up and the dirt that they got to keep shoveling. I'm going to say, you don't have to keep shoveling that dirt. Now, as you decide to, that's your fault, because I'm going to put the responsibility on that person.
Yes, that's right.
Wow. Wow.
Well, I got to, Corey, I got to add one more thing.
Go ahead.
I apologize to whoever I interrupted.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Because Merle's from Norfolk State. And does he know that both the men and the women are in the tournament?
Yes.
I know who he's rooting for, the Spartans, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I can tell you, I have told Norfolk State, I want to see a difference in how Black Republicans and conservatives are treated on campus.
Yes.
There's going to be a change to that. We're not going to be doing this hate fest, and they're going to get the same opportunity to speak and also have their thoughts respected, just like anywhere else. We used to have classes like that. I don't know what has happened in the DEI situation. We used to exchange these ideas, agree to disagree. Not everybody in my classroom was Democrat. It was a few Republicans, but I still loved them the same because they gave us real answers, and that's what we need. We need real people, real answers, real love, and forget all those who are there just for the money. That's where
I'm gonna tell you when you're ready to make that HBCU cycle, let me know, because I will go to Hampton, and my kids went to Virginia State, and some of my boys went to Union. So when you're ready to make that rotation, you let me know, and I'll definitely come with you. Jeff, you had another question before we sign off?
I think it's great that I don't view people as Black conservatives. I view them as conservatives who happen to be Black, but nevertheless, I just wanted Merle to maybe give out his website address for campaign information. And the other thing I wanted to ask is that Well, there will be a primary this year instead of a convention. And
Yeah.
to get on the ballot, I think you need like 40,000 signatures, and you have to have so many from each district or something weird like that.
Yeah,
I just wanted to
10,000.
ask if you had already done the legwork for that.
We are working on it just like everybody else. There's only 2 candidates that brought those signatures in. That's Spanberger and Sis. And yes, it's 400 from each district and 10,000 signatures combined. And it has to be turned in by April the 3rd. And she's going to mail off the signatures, meaning those who are doing it on their own have to be put in the mail by March 25th.
Okay.
Just
So
as
that's coming up
awareness
soon.
Thank you.
for those who are doing it. Because
All
I
right.
do believe in the grassroots, they are learning from us right now.
And
So
when's the
they
primary?
need to see how to get things done.
When's the primary?
The primary is June 17th.
Okay.
Okay.
And Merle, can you give our viewers your contact information so they get in touch with you or assist you with your ballot petitioning?
Yes, absolutely. My website is rutledge4ba.com. We would love any and all help getting signatures and more. This is teamwork, people. I'm bringing this back in the day where people feel good about who they are looking to represent them. And they don't have to worry about this little past secret or whatever. I'm very transparent and clear with any of my voters and any of my supporters. And I'd like to continue it that way.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Well, we appreciate you being with us. Merle Rutledge, he is a gubernatorial hopeful for the Republican Party of Virginia, and we're going to stay tuned with him and see what happens on his journey. And hopefully he's successful and he can bring the change that he wants to be. We definitely appreciate anybody tuned in. Once again, my name is Corey Fauconier. As always, my partner in justice, Markel Prines, my brother of another color, Jeff Kleb, everyone's favorite Nazarene attorney, Sandy Sanders, and all the way from New Zealand, our PhD to be, Josh Huffman, and of course, our guest of honor this evening, Merle Rutledge. We are Talks Over Drinks. Folks, remember, it's never too early or too late for Talks Over Drinks. Cheers.
All right, let's talk over drinks.
Talks over drinks.